Good morning, and welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on the journey toward publication. I hear myself twice.
I only hear you once.
Really? Okay, great. So just really glad. It's probably playing somewhere on one of my windows that I can't have about 1 million. Okay, great. I am Jennifer Carl Tong, by the way, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write in multiple genres, including Christian fantasy.
I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
Thank you so much to everybody who's tuning in right now live to us, our live chat. We love you guys. But we also want to send out a great big thank you to our listeners on iTunes and on Google Podcasts and everywhere else. Spotify, we're everywhere. All the other platforms where we make our audio available. YouTubers, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Also share. That helps us out a ton. Also, anywhere else that you listen, there's always a way of liking us and sharing us. So we really appreciate that you would help us to grow this community of like-minded Christian writers. We like to start each episode with a segment that we call our What's Up. It's a time to check in with one another and see where we are with our writing and our personal lives. So, Jamie, I'm going to go with you. What's up?
All right. Well, the beautiful Bambina sent me this year's first birthday present. I have an October birthday, and she knew I wanted to journal, so she sent me a journal. Isn't that nice? And look at how good I've been. I don't know if you can see. I don't necessarily have like a daily prescribed journaling habit, but I have been motivated to put my thoughts down on paper with a pen. For the first time in my life, it feels like good. It feels like it's for me. It doesn't feel like some chore that I'm doing.
That's
and
awesome.
Yeah, part of my process has been exploring Stoicism, which is an ancient Greek school of thought and philosophy for running your life. And it's a lot of the concepts that I've been journaling about. And the great Stoics were all big fans of journaling. So today I thought I would share a quote from the great Stoics, and then also a Bible quote that goes hand in hand with it. So the Stoicism quote I got from medium.com. And Marcus Aurelius, one of the big thinkers in Stoicism, said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And I thought that was terrific. And then, of course, I went to find a Bible parallel, and I picked Micah 6:8. "He hath showed thee, O man, what is good, and what doth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly and love mercy and to walk humbly with thy God." So I just wanted to share those couple of little bits of inspiration for everyone today as my What's Up.
That's awesome. All right, before we go on to Tina, I got the sound thing figured out, by the way, and it was echoing the whole time I was talking, and I feel like I was talking like 1,000,000 miles an hour. So I apologize for that, but I got it figured out. Okay. So real quick, before we go on to you, Tina, we're going to check our chat. Shell says, "So wonderful, Jamie." I agree. Leah Benicki says, "Looking lovely, ladies." Why, thank you. Liz is here as well. Good morning, Liz. Good morning, Gigi. Good morning, Shell. All right, everyone. We'd love to see what your What's Ups are. Share them in the comments. All right, Tina, what's up with you, sweetheart?
Well, I just got back from a week vacation in the Pacific Northwest. It was really good to be in the Pacific Northwest. I'm a fan. I saw mountains. I was so happy. It's depressingly flat in Michigan.
And what we call mountains are not really.
Yeah.
Well, in the UP, I would say are pretty decent, but not like.
I didn't see any mountains in the UP. Once I lived in Watertown, New York at one point, and I told someone I missed the mountains, and they said, "Well, you could just go like an hour east and there's mountains." And I drove 3 hours and 3 hours back, and I never saw a mountain. So
what's a mountain to you, right? Yeah,
I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, where the mountains like have a peak at the top of them. So yeah, I saw some mountains. The Cascade Mountains run through Washington. So and visited with my mom for a week. And so it was really nice to see her and spend some time with her. And
that's awesome.
That's what I've been. So I just got back and took Wednesday to recover. A little bit of jet lag going on there. And
and we were praying for you for flying because you had a little bit of anxiety about that, and you climbed that hill and you overcame. Yep. So good for you.
Yep.
Agreed.
Thanks, guys, for praying for me.
I'm so glad that you had a great time with your mom.
Yeah.
Precious moments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, Leah's what's up? Recovering from a mean infection, trying to finish the big beast of a book. The editing and rewrites are slow going. Oh, I hear you, sister.
Yeah, this is her 9th book. She's one who knows how to do it. So I believe in her. She'll get it done.
Yep. Shell says, what's up? Having fun using the Inktober prompt for daily sprints to practice my show don't tell skills. Enjoying getting back into a daily writing habit after almost no writing over the summer. Good for you, Shell. Yeah, you've been tagging us. I just noticed because I've been super busy this week and actually went away yesterday for the day. Did you guys hear that, Echo?
Yeah, sadly, I do hear that one. That's
weird.
Hear
that one. Okay, so I'm Tina. Can you try muting me? Let's see if it's you. So I went away for the day yesterday, and when I came back, I decided to check social media because I wasn't paying attention all week long. And so she's been tagging us and doing some great stuff with that Inktober. Now, the Inktober, if I remember correctly, that's actually a prompt one a day, every day in October, but for visual artists. But Shell and some others were using it for writing prompts, which I think is very exciting. So
that is exciting. And what I think is cool also is she's been posting a picture of her actual handwriting. So she's really doing both because it ends up being really artistic to see a picture of her own handwriting. So I think that's kind of neat. Yeah.
I will try to share something you've tagged us in on Instagram in our story so that if you are interested in what she's doing, later on today, go to our Instagram and look at our stories, and you'll be able to find her and follow Shell and see what she's up to. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so we are missing someone in our chat that we normally have that's always there and usually a big supporter of everybody else.
We're missing
ladies?
A host too.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say that, but let's do this one first. We're missing Piper. Piper will not be in the chat today, and let me show you why. Those are cranberries.
Not the singing kind.
No. Oh, I love that band. Anyway, she and her husband are cranberry farmers, right? I mean, they do they don't just farm cranberries, but they do own a cranberry farm, correct? And they are harvesting them right now.
Isn't that cool? And then she sent us some pictures of like farther away, and it just looks like pink flowers or something in a field, and you would have no idea what really was going on,
When I lived in Boston, the first time that I drove down to the Cape in the fall, because usually you go in the summertime, the first time I drove down towards the Cape in the fall, I was like, what in the world's that? What? Because there's people out in the water up to their waist wearing waders, and I'm like waders are not surprising me, but I didn't know what this stuff was floating on the surface. And my friend Phil was like, those are cranberries. And I'm like, what? And he was just shocked. He's like, you've never seen cranberries? I'm like, in the store in a little bag. Had no idea. I thought they grew in a tree. I didn't know. So it's very cool. And it's just kind of beautiful and like almost artistic when you're driving through the countryside in Massachusetts and probably elsewhere, but in watching these farmers out in the water and just like raking them, just like the Ocean Spray commercials that came out a few years back.
I knew that
that's
they grew
legit.
In a bog. That's the only way I knew is because of those commercials.
Yeah. Who knew? We were laughing about the word bog earlier too when we were talking about this because we said, oh, and if you are listening to this, you're going to want to go to our YouTube channel and watch this or look at this picture. But the word bog it just sounds terrible to me. Like that yummy fruit that ends up on my Thanksgiving table came from a thing called a bog.
The bog.
I always think of bogs as like swamps, places where like trolls live or like and frogs and toads and
yeah, and you expect it to always be gloomy there. No sun ever shines. I mean, but no, it's beautiful. The pictures. Wow. So we're happy for Piper and we hope she's having a happy harvest day.
Yes. Our other missing character of the show is Miss Rhonda Hagerman is not here today.
She has adulting to do.
She does.
She couldn't come out to play with us today.
Has she shared that she bought a new house? Well, new to her house?
It's her beautiful home that is perfect for a cozy mystery writer. Yeah. That has a monument right on the property.
Yes.
Yes.
The history lover in her is just so happy, but she had some inspections today that that she needed to be there for. And so, you know how inspections go. I don't know if you guys know this, but like you go to like your township or whatever and you say I'm building a fence or I'm remodeling a kitchen, whatever. And they tell you when the person's going to come out and you have to be there. Like it's not like, can you come between this time and this time? Excuse me.
There's also a cistern under her porch with like all kinds of fun things to dig up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Again, I would put cistern with things to dig up with bog. Like, to me, I'm like, that doesn't sound fun. Going to a bog doesn't quote unquote sound fun to me.
Digging in a cistern.
Like, what are cisterns used for originally? Like, what?
To hold water?
Yeah, they were like bathroom things, but like all junk went in there is what Rhonda said. So like you would find old pottery or anything that people didn't want anymore, they would throw it in there. And so over time, all of the waste or whatever turns into compost and dirt and soil. Worms do their job. I mean, so like after years and years and years of unuse, it's just dirt like any other dirt, supposedly. And you can go in there and excavate and find all of the antiques, as I like to call them.
So people threw things away in there that they didn't want anymore. Right there tells me that why would I want to go in there and dig through there? Nobody wants this stuff. So, all right, here we go. One of our history writers is going to clarify. A cistern, in archaeology, a cistern is a good place to find goodies. Ugh.
See?
Yeah, it just sounds gross to me.
I think you guys are thinking like the bathroom waste went in there. No, it was to hold fresh water. Okay. But then when it didn't hold fresh water anymore because it cracked or it was leaking or for whatever reason, then they would fill it with garbage. I don't think the sewage went in there.
Okay.
Right. Well, Jennifer, some people get really excited about an old piece of pottery just because it's old. They don't care if it's broken or chipped. They want to know, oh, this piece of pottery is old or something.
Right.
And one man's trash is another man's treasure 100 years later.
Yeah, I get it.
Can from,
and it can tell you a lot about the way a person lived.
That's true. That's very true. So like, I get that part of it. So, but if I found one under my house, I would not be digging in it. Just letting you know, it's a personality difference. Like, I know it's going to come as a big shock to our listeners that Rhonda and I have different personalities.
Really? Oh, man.
All right. My what's up? I have not shared mine yet. I just realized that. Usually I don't go last, but today I did. I went scrapbooking yesterday.
Oh, that's right. I'm so happy for you.
So I know that a lot of people are like, only like what? Like, why would you do that? And I know that like some people like think it's an old person kind of thing. Well, I am an old person. So it's all fine. But it was funny because most people there were definitely my mom's age, maybe a little bit younger. There were a few like my age, but like most of us my age are still raising children, can't take a whole day off in the middle of the week, or are still working full-time jobs, haven't retired, or, you know, a mixture of the two. And so, but I went and I took some classes and, like, I love taking the classes because they give you the kit and you can finish the pages in that hour. And I prepared because I could see the pictures in advance and I had pictures printed and I was trying to quickly like slap pictures on it too. Cause I knew when I got home, my focus was not going to be scrapbooking anymore. So I wanted to get as much done as possible. So do you guys want to see a couple of them? I can really show a couple. Okay. So if you are listening to this later on, you're going to want to go to YouTube and see these beautiful girls that are featured. I I'm too close. You can't really see those. There's the beautiful girls. They're gorgeous.
Yes.
And then this was just a random day that we decided to go to Stepping Stone Falls. Stepping Stone Falls is a man-made waterfall here in the Flint area. Sorry, I'm way off the microphone. Sorry about that. So yeah, I had a really, really great day. It's the whole way down. I just like was by myself in the car and in drive time. So it took a little bit longer. It wasn't bad though. The commute was on the way down there was pretty good. But like just me and God worshiping all the way down, which, when you homeschool, you don't have many moments like that, right? And then I got down there and I found a spot. I got my own table and I just stayed there most of the day because it was the same classroom for all the classes. And I just it was just great because I don't ever get time to do just what I want to do, right? So it really just kind of fed me in a way that other things haven't been able to feed me. Like artistically, it fed me, just like spiritually being alone with God for a while and being by myself for a while. It fed me. It was just a really, really good day for me. So
awesome.
I'm so glad because whenever anybody would say the word scrapbooking, you would be like, oh, I so want to. I'm so glad that you finally did do that.
Yes.
Very happy for you. It sounds like it fit the bill perfectly.
Yep.
And for anybody who thinks Jennifer might be slightly biased, those girls really are beautiful.
They are.
Thank you guys. I was just kidding when I was not kidding. I do think they're beautiful, but I was going over the top because they are mine. Yes, those were not models. Those were my daughters. They're a little bit older now, but not a whole lot, but a little bit. I mean, I think not a whole lot, but gosh, probably 5 or 6 years. Oh my goodness. But
they grow up so fast.
And when I think of my girls, I still think of them like that, I think. Even though I see them every day.
Mine are all adults and I still think of them. My babies. Yeah.
Neither of you girls do. You guys don't scrapbook, right?
I have.
You have?
It was a hobby I could not financially afford to keep up with.
Yes. It is an investment as well as if I have so much stuff that I've over the years have accumulated. So it's not if you had to start it right now, it would be a lot of money.
When the EMP comes, all memories of my youngest are gone with it.
That's the other thing I've been doing. Not to stretch out this topic again, but technology wise, all my starting off with my oldest, who is now about to turn 16 in a couple weeks. Oh my word. It's so weird because I'm so young. I don't know how I have a 16-year-old. When she was a baby, everything got printed. So I have piles of pictures of her. My baby, I don't have as many, but it's not because I didn't take as many. It's because everything is electronic. And I spent a lot of time this week, while sitting with girls watching TV or when I had little breaks or whatnot, organizing photos that I have just uploaded. I just put them places and folders and stuff. And it's so much fun to organize them. And the girls were flipping through the digital versions with me with just as much excitement, maybe more than they do when they get to see the scrapbooks that I put together. So it is a fun way. And I do digital scrapbooking too. So, but it made me start thinking about how organized I am with my writing. I am so much more organized with my writing and the notes I take and how I do all of my everything that I do than I am anything else in my life. Because those pictures were not organized. My house right now, not organized. But my writing is. And so that might be a whole nother topic we can talk about someday. But
is it a segue for today's topic?
It is, because I do need to address the fact that today we were so excited. We were supposed to have Ben Wolf on the show today discussing world building. And we could not find Ben. He's not responding.
Where are you, Ben? Ben.
I don't know if there's a time difference. I tried to make it very clear we were Eastern, so I don't think it's that. I don't know so we just need to pray for Ben, make sure there's no emergencies or anything like that. It probably just is a technical thing. No big deal. We'll try to get him on in the future. So we are punting this, pantsing this, shall we say. Oh, Leah says she's the same with her writing versus the rest of her life. Yeah. So that's good. If my writing were as unorganized as everything else in my life, I would not have been published by now. For sure. This is why my house is a mess, because I'm not organized with my house. And that's why it looks like this. So, Okay. So we talked in our business meeting just this week, actually, but we talked about it a couple different times about the topics that we have coming up this month, specifically for Preptober, to help all of our listeners to get ready for NaNoWriMo. If you're new to us and new to NaNoWriMo, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, and it happens every November, and it's a worldwide event. And you can go see their website at NaNoWriMo.org. So it's NaNoWriMo.org, right? NaNoWriMo.org, right?
Yes.
And so we're preparing, and so we're doing episodes on. We did an episode on how to plot a romance. I'm sorry, how to plot a cozy mystery. Next week we're going to do how to plot a romance. The week after Tina's going to lead us in how to plot a fantasy, and then Jamie's just sitting over here going, what about me? And so we were going to wait to the last week, and we were going to talk about, what if you're not a plotter? How do you handle NaNoWriMo? And we decided then on this last meeting that we were going to actually pants the episode. Isn't that funny that we talked about that, Jamie? That we weren't going to outline it. We're just going to run with it, because if we're talking about pantsing, let's just pants the outline too. How fun will that be? Well, guess what? I think that was God preparing us and interceding and saying, all right, ladies, be ready to pants an episode. What do you think?
I have to agree with you, because we did not plan to not have a topic.
We were so prepped for this week. Let me tell you, I read his book, and we had an outline. Like, we always have an outline, except for today.
Yeah. And so it's interesting, because what they call someone who does not plot is a pantser, meaning you just write by the seat of your pants. Over time, I don't think I was the first person to say discovery writer, but that's what I realized that I am more. It's like I discover the story as I'm writing it. And as I've been influenced by other plotters in my life, I'm tempted to now kind of call myself a plantser. But no joke, NaNoWriMo, for the first, at least 5 years that I did it, I sat down and a couple times had no idea what I would write on day one, and just went and just typed whatever came to mind, because I was really embracing the idea of write now, edit later. I loved the freedom of locking up the inner editor and just getting the words down onto paper, because personally, I have a real problem listening to other people talk about change they want to make in their lives, but never taking action to make the change happen. And when people complain, I really wish this and this were true about my life, but they don't actually take the action to make the change, it rubs me, which I know when something rubs me, it's a feeling I have in myself. And it's like I'm looking in a mirror and I don't like that character trait. So then I go internal. So for me, actually writing a novel was the important thing. Writing 50,000 words of anything was the actual goal. So I didn't care what the words were.
So that you could literally check it off and know that you could do it. Now, maybe this would never get published. Maybe it would, but the fact of actually doing the writing, and I think that that's important for a lot of people. I think that if you're new to this, if you're still trying to figure out where you fit into the writing world, maybe you just stumbled across us. Really, I think one of the most important things about NaNoWriMo is it just showing yourself that you can do it.
Absolutely, because how many people say someday I'm going to write that novel?
Right.
And that's how NaNoWriMo was pitched to me when I first learned about it so many years ago. I think 14 or 15 years ago now is when I was introduced to it. It was just finally having done it. Because everybody says someday I'm going to write a novel. Well, what's a novel? 50,000 words. So go ahead and do it already. And so that's why pantsing, it was just like, why not pants, right? Because I didn't have anyone but me involved in this decision. And then I've been kind of, like I said, influenced and growing. And so now I would maybe call myself a plantser. We don't really have an outline to hang this episode on. So why don't I toss it to you, Tina? Like, you're kind of a hybrid planner pantser, aren't you?
Yes. I'd like to go back to the whole plotting and pantsing debate, though. I heard somebody say everybody plots. It's just that some people do it with an outline. And some people do it in their head as they're writing.
I've said before, everybody's a discovery writer. I just discover my writing in the plotting of it.
Right. And so it's all individual. And it's changed with each book that I've written.
Yes, how could it not? I mean, you don't write and write and write and write and not change and grow as a writer. I mean, you change and grow as a person.
Right.
So yeah, your writing has
so like book one, my first version of book one was completely pantsed. And then when I sent it out for review by readers, found out there were a lot of big holes in it. And then I started over and completely rewrote it with a little bit more of an idea of an outline. And then when I went through to edit it, the outline became clearer. I had a much clearer outline. Book two definitely had somewhat of an outline because it had to build on book one. Right. And then book three was even more planned ahead because it had to build on book one and book two and still have the same character and the same, world and all that stuff. So it's kind of morphing as I go. But I really like the Story Genius method because you develop 5 scenes. You develop them out completely, and then you write those 5 scenes, and then you adjust your development cards based on what you actually wrote. So sometimes what you wrote on your development card kind of changes as you're writing. So then once you have those 5 scenes written, you develop 5 more scenes. And so as you go, your plot is being developed based on what you just wrote. And so that makes my plotty pantsies, both of my sides, happy.
Right. Yes. And I just kind of feel like I wanted to take a moment to say, so if November 1st rolls around and you're like, but I don't have anything to write. Like maybe you're hearing this episode and it's November 1st right now. Right. Just sit down and write whatever words. I mean, that's the whole point of National Novel Writing Month, is to get you to actually do it. Like, because prepping and preparing to do something, lots of people get to that point for lots of things: climbing Mount Everest, losing weight, changing careers, learning to play the guitar, learning to knit. You can shop for yarn, you can shop for needles, you can get little things for your fingers to make sure they don't get tired. But the actual doing of it, starting to actually be a writer, just do that. Even if it like, stop worrying about outcome and just start worrying about actually taking action toward meeting your goals.
Right. Leah says, I think NaNoWriMo is such a blessing. I have learned so much in the process each year. Even after so many years, I still participate. I feel the same way. Much of what Jamie said early on about how you have to so many people say they're going to write a novel and they don't. My experience was, I've been saying it for years. And then I had a family and I kept saying it. And my littlest one was getting to the point where she wasn't taking my full attention anymore. And she could play on her own. She was going to be going to kindergarten soon. And I was or preschool soon. And so my husband ended up going on to third shift. So that was hard with 6 kids to have a husband on third shift. And I was taking care of everything. And I was listening to a devotional. I don't even remember who it was or where. I wish I knew, but the person said that that you can either basically suffer, or you can take your suffering and use it. Take this and find what you're supposed to be doing in it. And I started praying about that and realized, okay, yeah, it's hard during the day, but I have all this free time at night. When you're married, you watch a TV show together or you spend time together, you have married life together. And I didn't have that at that point. So I had all these hours. So I'm that's it. I'm finally going to write my book that I thought I only had one book in me. And I started writing, and you guys know the story about that. I pantsed it. So yes, your girl who's a plotter, I started off as a pantser. And like Tina said, I learned to get better at writing. And that's when I turned to plotting. But my first nano on October 30th, not the 31st. But on October 30th, I discovered Nano, and I'm I should do this. And I had been thinking that I wanted to write the oldest sister's story. So I just showed up basically on November 1st, and I started writing that book. And so, and when I look at it, out of my 4 novels that I've written, 3 of them are nano projects.
Nice.
So that's pretty exciting. One was a camp nano, and the other 2 were nano. And so it does work. It maybe not for everybody, but it works for me. And I'm like, Leah, because I've learned so much and I kind of feel like I owe so much to nano, even though it's not really a person or like anything. It's just a thing that people do, that I still participate every year because I feel like I have some sort of like gratitude towards it.
Right. And the whole goal of Nano is to write 50,000 words. So if you get 5 days in and whatever story you were writing just is fizzling out and you're not interested anymore and you're not feeling it, it's perfectly fine to switch gears
and start a new
and
one.
Start writing something else.
Yeah.
And maybe somewhere in there, let's say you write 3 stories during the course of the month. Somewhere in there, you might find something you can develop later.
And Jamie, do you find that like as a pantser and you're doing nano, if you were to do that, or if you were to like decide like you had to change something in a scene, you don't delete the other scene, right? You just write new, because the point is 50,000 words. Yeah. Once it's edited, maybe you're only going to have 25,000. But the point is, like you said at the beginning, is checking that off. Like I wrote 50,000 words in 1 month.
Which is, that's why they call it novel writing month, because 50,000 words is the very, very shortest end of what people would accept as a novel, which is interesting too, because, there's arguments about that in Facebook groups, but whatever.
There's always arguments on Facebook groups. Oh, always.
Isn't that what Facebook groups are for?
Yes.
I think so. Liz says, all my books are nano projects, and I heard of it on Halloween a few years ago. Yeah, nice. There's a lot of us, because I think that everyone starts sharing, so which is why, if you'll notice, our topics for this month, we have NaNoWriMo in the heading, because we're hoping to like hit people early. We're hoping to find people that have never heard of NaNoWriMo, that give them more time to prepare for it, or to just like really to make the decision to do it. So, all right, Jamie. So some questions for you as a pantser through and through. Can someone be successful with NaNoWriMo if they're a pantser?
Well, sure you can, because the goal is to write 50,000 words. And like, I'm not going to lie, sometimes my 50,000 words are me transcribing whatever I'm hearing in my environment, because the sprint person says mark it, set, go, and your brain just goes blank, and I'm just typing. I think that, first of all, quote unquote, winning NaNoWriMo is to write the 50,000 words. And Tina, can I have you mute? Because the echo is really distracting me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. The 50,000 word goal is really about establishing a writing habit.
Yes.
Or maybe overcoming a bit of imposter syndrome, so you can actually consider yourself a writer. Like, it's the doing of the work that is the point of NaNoWriMo. And what's funny is I haven't published any of the books that I wrote during National Novel Writing Month. They're all still sitting in my world as drafts. And it's funny how I'm tempted to feel like, well, that makes it not count. Why? Why does that make it not count? You know what I'm saying? Because I know some of it is transcribing what is in my environment a lot less than it ever was before. Not my later projects. Right. But I'm saying the temptation is even to diminish the huge accomplishment as the years go by, because you forget what it's like to even think about how daunting the prospect of writing 50,000 words is to a non-writer. It's really a big deal. If anybody here listening or in our chat, pat yourself on the back, literally, for writing 50,000 words ever, especially in a month. Because a lot of people think they could. A lot of people will come to you and say, I have this amazing story idea. Wouldn't that be a great story? Well, ask them to go and write 50,000 words about it.
Right.
And suddenly you're going to seem like a real hero in their mind once they realize that there's a lot to committing yourself to just the act of doing.
Agreed. Shell says, my first nano, I wrote 33,000 words, and it was the most I'd ever written. Whatever you do for it is worth celebrating, even if you don't hit that 50,000. Nano isn't about stressing to win. Agreed.
Very awesome.
Because it's her very first nano, and she sat down and wrote 33,000 words. How many people can say when they finally sit down to write and they finally are going to do it, that they do 33,000 words in a month? Some don't even get to 33,000 in a year. They just don't do it. So good for you, Shell. Leah Benicki says, the writing habit is one of the best skill sets to learn as a writer. By joining in, I proved to myself that I could do it. Agreed. All right. So I am a new writer. I am all of a sudden happening across this podcast. I have 24 hours, maybe less, or I don't, a couple weeks, whatever. Whenever I come across this podcast and I decide I'm going to do nano, Jamie, what are some things, even as a pantser, are there some things that you do to prepare yourself, even if it's not a full on plot? Is there anything or isn't there? You just show up and do it.
Yeah, well, I think my answer once upon a time would be different than it is now. But fortunately, I think that I have gained enough wisdom to tell this person that a really good thing to do would to be starting to think about your character, okay? Because so a lot of people like to think about, I'm going to write a story about this and this and this that happens. Okay. But where I feel you're going to find a lot more to mine is to start thinking about the people who are going to be experiencing these things that are going to happen in the novel. So if you're thinking, I'm going to write a story about a supermarket that's attacked by aliens, which is a Stephen King plot. So go ahead and take your own twist on that if you want. So in there's going to be a supermarket and an alien is going to attack and the people inside don't know what to do. Well, who are those people inside? And in fact, that's what I started my nano project and part of my journaling, which is another reason why I have my journal over here. I started to think about my characters and like a little note about each character. Now, this is way more plotty than I ever was back in my 100% pantsy days, which is why I say I'm able to actually answer this question, because I realized that in my mind, that's what I do anyway. I just wrote it down this time, and now I'm able to verbalize it to other people, because I feel like events don't happen to people without them feeling something. And then because this event happened, the person will grow, the person will act, the person will do things that will instigate other events to happen in the book. And you never know, before you know it, the supermarket might turn into a shopping mall because, Frederick decided he needed a hockey stick from Sporting Goods. Oh, well, turns out there's a sporting goods store. So now this is a mall. And you can even write that inside your nano project because you're going to edit it later. So, okay, go back later and turn it all into a mall instead of a supermarket. Frederick ran over to MC Sporting Goods and got blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, well, why? What is it about Frederick? Well, he's a jock from high school. He's a take charge kind of guy. He's ex-military. And let your mind really get into who these people are so that when your events happen to them, they will propel your story forward and give you more things to write about. That would be what I would say.
Awesome. It's funny, Ben, I was going to talk with Ben about this. One of the things that he said in his book when he was talking about characters for your story building was there's nothing more important than ... He does that for his characters. So for this character, there's nothing more important than, and so then you have to really think about what is the most important thing to them. And I do something similar. I'm going to share it when we do the romance. I do something similar, but to know those kind of things about your characters and really what motivates them will really help you to write the story, whether you plot it or not. And I know I've said this before, but I saw an interview with Jeanette Oak, one of my heroes, and she said character matters. When they asked her what's the most important thing to writing a novel, she's like, character matters. Doesn't matter how good your story is if they don't like your characters. And it's so true.
Yeah. And if you don't know what they look like, if you don't know the answers to some of these questions I'm asking you, okay, you're telling me you're a pantser, sit down on November 1st and say, Carrie was a blonde, and then just verbally vomit everything you know about Carrie and count it as part of your 50,000 words. Yeah. Don't think about, is this going to make it into the final draft? But the point is to get the 50,000 words written, write the words, and then go back later. And I got to say, as a pantser, part of the reason that I was and am and whatever a pantser is because I get so bored so easily, and I will even bore myself. Okay, I know it's a supermarket that gets attacked by aliens. Am I still going on and on about that? And the idea of doing a rewrite or anything was so overwhelming to me. It's like, I just wrote 50,000 words. Can I be done now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you get hung up on the future I'm going to have to do all this other work. Like, you could talk yourself right out of it.
Agreed.
So just enjoy the actual act of actually being someone who's actually writing words.
And so, yes, so if you don't have any of this stuff that we're suggesting, that's a great idea. Like Jamie's suggesting, show up on November 1st and you write all that stuff out. Ask yourself those questions. What's more, nothing is more important to this character than, and then you just like pants it. See what comes to you as you do it. That's great. And then you can include that in your 50,000. I love that. That's a great idea.
Because I mean, a rough draft is a rough draft.
Yeah.
And if nothing ever comes out of anything you write in the month of November, you have trained your brain.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you have practiced. It's like playing scales on the piano.
Yes.
Like, you have trained your brain to write, and you have accomplished something, even if nothing comes from it.
Absolutely agreed. And we did a whole episode on that too. And we also have, and I don't have it behind me because my basement's tore up, but we also have a workbook that is full of writing sprints that could help you through this month. It's 30 days of writing sprint prompts. You could use one every single day of November, but we have a chapter on how your brain is affected by a daily writing habit. So 30 days of writing sprint prompts, and you can find the link below in the description.
And most people are not like me. I'm kind of a weird maniac. I have the 50,000 word goal in my mind, and I'll just write with all of my spare time until I get to 50,000 words. But most people have like a prescribed time of day that they write. And the ideal is if you do that every day for 30 days and you try to pick a time that will be your forever time and you write about 2,000 words every day, that's a very productive writing habit, and you're going to become a better writer. And that was also one of my goals when I started out, I wanted my writing to improve.
All right. Sounds good. Anything else to add, ladies? All right.
Nope.
Great. Well, now it is time for us to move on to the favorite part of the show, the feeding of the backs. What is that? If you are new to us, we do a thing called a writing sprint. So we've used that word. We should probably every so often stop and like give little primers.
Sure.
So a writing sprint is when you set a timer and you do nothing but write. Again, we have episodes on this. You can go back and look. You don't like, and my kids know when I'm sprinting, like one of my daughters, when we were sprinting this morning, she came up towards me to like try to get my attention. I'm like, I'm sprinting. I'll be with you in a minute. And so she's like, okay. And she walked away. They know if it's an emergency, they can stop me, but they understand what a sprint is.
And so it's totally pantsing, isn't it?
It really is. It's totally pantsing, but you know what? It's the best thing for Nano. It'll get you through NaNoWriMo. Even if you are an outliner, you sit down, you set a timer and you just focus and you just kind of, whatever comes out, comes out. And amazing. The more you do it, the better your writing becomes during these sprints. It's crazy, but trust us in this. So every week we do a sprint, not a 25-minute that is a normal Pomodoro style. We just do a 15-minute sprint because we don't have time to share once writing that long generally. But every week we set a timer, the ladies and I do, and we write according to the same sprint for 15 minutes, and then we don't edit it. We don't look at it again. And then we bring them out live here on the show and we share them, much to everyone's hopefully enjoyment. So this week, and you can also, if you want to participate, we post them on social media every week with about an hour before we go live. Plenty of time for you to fit your 15 minutes in. All right, Tina, I'm going to have you go first. Tell us what the sprint was, the prompt was, and share your sprint, please, my friend.
Okay, so it was in quotes. What do you guys think? So we had to use, since it's in quotes, you have to use those words in your sprint.
You have to, quote
You
unquote,
have to.
Because sometimes we cheat, but I didn't. I used them.
I did use them as my first line.
Me too.
So here goes. What do you guys think? An awkward silence filled the room. Nobody wanted to say what they thought, or like Nancy, had no idea what they thought. To be honest, her mind had been 1,000 miles away and she couldn't remember anything James had just said. She should have stayed home and called in sick today, but her unusually strong sense of responsibility wouldn't allow that. She was here physically, out of duty, but her mind refused to comply. It kept going back to the mountains, the cool, crisp air and the scent of pine, the tinkling of water over stones, the call of an eagle echoing off the slopes, the lapping of waves against the canoe, and him, the sparkle in his bright blue eyes, the waves in his dark hair, the way he filled out that blue plaid flannel shirt. That was a tongue twister. His laugh, so full of exuberance it startled birds from their roosts, the smell of his cologne woodsy like their surroundings. They'd hiked the mountain trails and canoed the river as high up as they could get. They'd snuggled at night before the fire and eaten meals cooked over it. The homey little cabin they stayed in was only one room, but it was absolutely perfect. And right up to the end, it had been the absolutely perfect celebration of their first anniversary. Her heart ached to have those days back. Nancy, are you okay? James asked. She realized the room was empty but for the two of them. Can I help push you back to your desk? Oh no, I got it, Nancy replied, grabbing hold of her joystick and backing her chair from the table. She smiled at James and hoped he didn't see it was only on the outside. As she rode down the hall toward her desk, the 4 long scars on her lower back throbbed, reminding her once more that today would have been her 2nd anniversary.
Whoa.
Oh, Tina.
Tina, is this a detective person that you wrote before? No. I don't know why. I want to put her in your crime scene unit as like a detective. I mean, how amazing would that be?
What a great cozy that would be. Okay, so
she's amazing, this character.
Yes, I had all kinds of funny things to say until you like did that to us.
Yeah, I know. I thought that maybe she was talking about dog at first because she's like, oh, the fur and the dark hair. I'm like, oh, she's gonna pull a fast one on us, so she's gonna end up talking about a dog.
I was thinking that she really didn't want to be here today, but she was obligated to be here, so she was really writing an autobiographical. Like, and then I was gonna ask if Bob had blue eyes.
He does, yeah.
Yeah, he does have blue eyes.
Just talk about your vacation, and then you did that to us, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah. And that's interesting too, because you wonder what ended everything, and then you wonder if the scars had something to do with it.
Yeah.
Like, is it a bear attack or like what?
Yeah.
And then,
it was bear claw scars, and I sat here and debated with myself whether to actually put something about the bear in there, but and then I decided not to.
No, I love it because like if you expand this, and I don't know if you ever will, but if you expand this into something else, like you've left us like scars, like for me, like my mind did not immediately go to bear, but it makes sense that bear. And then you keep adding pieces to like the story as it goes, and people learn more and more. No, perfect the way you did it, I think.
And your descriptions are great. And for anybody who still needs pantsing advice, play around with description, man. Take a page out of Tina's book and write everything your characters are seeing and feeling and hearing, just like Tina did, because first of all, it's a lot of words. And second of all, it will develop you as a writer. What did Gigi say there?
So I hit the keyboard by accident. Gigi said, so much description took me to the woods. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leah says, devastating and beautiful. Agreed. An oh, wow from Liz. And Shell says, "Aw, Tina, so heartbreaking." Wow, agreed.
Yeah, wow.
15 minutes. See, you guys, you can do this in 15 minutes. We are not superheroes. I know sometimes people watch us and think, "Oh, well, they can do it." We're nobody. We seriously are nobody. If we can do this, you can do this.
I'm wearing a cape next week.
No capes.
2 weeks. There'll be Halloween-ish.
Oh,
the 30th.
There you go.
Jennifer, you're gonna follow that, not me, right?
I am.
Unfortunately. Are you guys still hearing an echo when I unmute?
Sometimes it's weird.
It is weird, but it's not right now. So.
Not right now.
Okay. I will go next, and just so you guys know, Marnie is back.
Oh, yay! I like her.
All right. What do you guys think? Jeannie and Louise looked around. Who are you talking to? I'm talking to you two, Marnie said, clearly frustrated. There's no one else around. Who else would I be talking to? Jeannie hitched an eyebrow. Well, you said guys, and since we are female, we just assumed. Ugh, you knew what I meant. Yes, Marnie, we knew what you meant, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating. Why do you keep doing that? It was true. There are many quirks that Marnie had, I meant to say Midwest quirks, that Marnie had been able to shed since moving to Boston, but ceasing from referring to all people, regardless of gender, as guys hadn't been one of them. I'm sorry. I'm really trying. Look, I don't call it pop anymore. That's progress, right? Why did you stop saying pop? All three women turned to find Mr. Boss towering over them, leaning onto the half wall of Marnie's cubicle. Do you eavesdrop on all your employees' private conversations, or do you just delight in torturing me with your constant surprise appearances? Marnie heard both of her coworkers gasp, but she didn't care. They didn't know everything that had happened, and she was finished with keeping up appearances with this guy. Mr. Boss chuckled, that annoyingly charming chuckle that made most women in the office swoon, but Marnie now found much more to the annoying variety than charming anymore. He winked at her. If it's so private, why are you having it out here in the open? Because this is my office. She waved her arms around. Not all of us get 4 walls and a door. Is that what you want, Marnie? Wait, sorry, my computer. Is that what you want, Marnie? He said, lowering his voice. Marnie wasn't even certain the other two could hear him. An office with a door, would that make you happy? Marnie was speechless. Whether due to his words or his closeness, she wasn't certain. Mr. Boss stood back straight. All I'm saying is that you shouldn't have to change who you are for anyone, Marnie. Not your friends, not your family, not your job. He turned to leave. I'm heading to the vending machine. Anyone want a pop?
A pop. Nice. Very good. I like this. So this is a romance between Marnie and Mr. Boss. Did it always start that way?
Yes. Yeah, it started that way always.
I like it. This is really terrific. Yeah, I like that she has coworkers that are relatable. What, Tina?
I was just gonna say I love that tension like thing that happens where between like the love interest where they like think they're like the worst person on the planet and then they discover them like later.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I love so this is Pants. And I'm discovering, this is funny because I'm discovering things about Marnie and Mr. Boss every time I sprint. I don't have a plot. I don't have any sort of plan for these characters. I didn't know they lived in Boston. I actually thought they're going to be Chicago, but nope, they live in Boston. I didn't know that Marnie feels like she has to change herself for other people, but she does apparently. So that's good to see.
That's a great theme, right? We were talking about themes in writing. I love that.
Yeah.
And exactly. I love that he recognized that.
Yes. And like, I kind of felt like she's not in the right job. She does it and she's good at it, but I've always kind of felt for like at least a few sprints now that she's not in the right job. And like all of a sudden I realized he knows it too. Like, is it, will that make you happy? And, because like everyone else is like working their way up. Right. And he knows that this is not the place for her. And
which means he's good for her, even though she doesn't want to like him.
And he's starting to corner her on things like, oh, is that what you want? An office? Really?
Which is like, really going to annoy her.
Yes. Because she thinks she knows what she wants. Don't tell me that I don't know what I want, but she really doesn't.
And she also thinks she knows who he is.
Yep. And see, this is all from pantsing, you guys. This is what I'm saying. Like, so it is okay to pants, especially Nano. Like, just get it done. Liz says, enemies to lovers. Yes. Leah says, I loved her hands in the air waving. I could see her. Yeah, me too. Probably because that's what I would do. Gigi says, ouch. I call everyone guys. I love this character, Marnie. I know. So that actually happened to me when I lived out east. There was a lot of times that people would like, first of all, I had to slow down. That was a logistical thing that I had to do. People could not understand me because I talk so fast. Here in Michigan, not a problem. On the East Coast, people are like, slow down. I did not stop saying pop unless I was somewhere that I knew the person was not going to understand. I would say soda. But the guys thing, that was a problem for people. A lot of women were very upset when I refer to them as guys. So that
you want to know what's funny is like, I think, because I was thinking about the same thing, like how it pinged in her mind. And I was like, I have adapted to starting to say y'all.
See, it's
you all wanted this, and I say you all most of the time because the accent isn't natural to me. But I've stopped saying you guys, and I just say you all. Yeah. And I didn't really think about that until you pointed out.
I think with me, I actually probably it was more of a transition. It probably wasn't anybody like making me or me feeling like I had to change. But this character feels like she has to change. So there's a difference. So this is not me, even though I can add flair to this because I lived in Boston.
Yes.
So, but it doesn't mean that it's me.
It's like write totally what you know stuff. It's write what you know stuff.
That's funny because I have family in New York City and I feel like they talk really fast.
Oh, how funny. I don't think because you're not a native to Michigan, I don't think you talk as fast as we do, but there are times that I listen to our old podcast or listen back to a podcast and I want to yell at myself and tell myself to slow down. I am a very fast speaker, and I need to and I was in radio for years, and I actually cured myself of a lot of the Midwest quirks because I had to for my job. But it didn't take long after getting on a radio and living back in Michigan to be right back at it. All right, Jamie, I cannot wait to hear what you wrote next.
Don't say that. Oh, it's very disappointing this time. Okay, so here we go.
Don't say that. Listen, it's pantsed. We don't edit it. We just read it. So don't say that.
All right. So here we go. What do you guys think? Marjorie tilted her head to one side as if doing so would make the drawing look better. She had tried to keep the skepticism out of her question, but the furrowed brow that manifested over Jason's big brown eyes telegraphed she had failed. You don't like my plan? He asked, trying, Marjorie knew, to sound dismissive and not offended. It seemed he was as bad at disguising his true feelings in his speech as she had been, because the third person on their team, Pasha, shook his head. She's right, Jason. While this drawing clearly meets the requirements, this design isn't going to be good enough to get us first place. Don't take it personally, teammate number 4, Jackie said, spinning the paper around and attacking it with her own pencil. Just make the necessary adjustments. Here. She spun the paper back around for the group's appraisal. Marjorie frowned, but hid the gesture behind a pinched hand with which she plucked at her bottom lip. She said. You've made it worse, Pasha declared, saying exactly what Marjorie had been thinking, and if she was interpreting Jason's expressions correctly, reflected what he was thinking also. Pasha grabbed the diagram and attacked it with his gum eraser, taking the design back down to what Jason had originally proposed. Well, I've given you my idea, and I'm usually only good for about one per day, Jackie said, throwing up her hands and standing. I'm going to go get a Hot Pocket. Anyone else want one? There was a chorus of yeah and yes pleases as Jackie left the room. Marjorie tapped the plan with her pencil. Is there something we're overlooking? Something obvious? Maybe we should get out the original instructions. She turned and started rummaging through her backpack. I'm telling you, this is a winning design, Jason said, and began another long-winded explanation about how he had gone over all the potentials in his mind before falling asleep on Friday, and that he always got his best ideas after such a brainstorming session. You keep saying all that stuff, Pasha sighed, yet your design is faulty. Look. With a few simple declarative statements, Pasha proved himself correct. I guess you're right, Jason finally relented. There is no way this branch of the design here can bear the weight I've put up higher in the structure. Here it is, Marjorie declared, feeling triumphant, even though her teacher's sparse instructions held little promise for solving their current situation. She brought the paper to the table and tried her best to flatten it as the others bent in. Of course, Jason tried to spin the paper so the writing was the right way up for himself, but Marjorie spun it right back around. You've had your say so far, she said. Now I want to take a turn at the helm. Suit yourself, Jason said, throwing his hands up in the air. In the end, however, it was Pasha who discovered the thing that would save their spaghetti and marshmallow tower by discovering the group was not limited to one kind of pasta. As it turned out, a fettuccine reinforcement on sections A through C was all that was needed. The end.
I love it. I don't know why you don't like this. First of all, this is a perfect example of what you were saying earlier about characters. Like, so you're saying, so they're just building some sort of spaghetti and marshmallow thing. Like they had to do it together as a team project. And like, so who, like, this could be super boring. Like, who wants to even read this? But it's the characters that brought us in. It isn't even about the action or what's happening. It's these people. And I love that.
Oh, so thanks. Good. I'm so glad because like you said, I was just like, this is like a nothing going on kind of a situation. So I'm glad that it was entertaining to listen to.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, to me, it really didn't even matter what they were building. It was the dynamics between the characters and who's in charge and whose ideas best and all that stuff that mattered. Like they could have been building a skyrise, you know, they could have been adults building a skyscraper or something, but.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. I agree because you're right. It doesn't really matter, but yet it did because once she got me hooked with the characters, then I wanted to know more. And isn't that what a good story does or a good novel does? You get me into your characters. I don't know what the story is yet, right? I don't know what's going to happen, but you get me in your characters and now I'm here for the story because I've got to see the rest of it. So the fact that like, because honestly, like, when you're writing, I can just, you're so good with characters. I knew that it wasn't adults. just from what you were saying, but it was close. So I was like, is it high school? Is it college? I knew it was like close there because you're just so good with your characters that you're able to give them a voice that is very true to the age group and the person. But it made me want to know, like, okay, what are they building? Even though really, like Tina said, I agree. It didn't really matter. It was about the characters. But once you got me into the characters, then it mattered, right?
Well,
and
thanks.
when she revealed what it was like putting that cherry on top of the sundae.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Hooray.
Gigi said, Jamie, what intriguing character interaction. You pulled me in. I love this. Shell says, so great. I thought it was the architects and it turned out to be kids. Fun twist. Yep. And so many words. Great dialogue too. Agreed. Leah says, I use chores in my books all the time that seem boring, but I put a plot within my character's daily life. Yes, agreed.
Yes.
Because it can really move your story forward, internal stuff. Because it can be so boring for us to just like tell what's going on in our characters' heads, right? But if they're doing something and that is actually kind of manifesting a struggle that they're having, or it's manifesting a plot arc that's happening, then that's good writing.
Yeah. I mean, how does she treat the cow? How does your character treat the cow?
Yeah.
Don't you know a lot about what kind of person they are?
Yes.
How do they treat the pig? How do they treat the dog? Right.
And even if they have an internal dialogue going on, because like this is a repetitive task that they do all the time and they don't have to think about it. So now they're ruminating on their problems while they're doing their chores.
Yeah. That's great. Good job, guys. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I loved your guys's.
Yeah.
I loved everyone's.
All right. So we are actually over. I can't believe we're over. It's because we pantsed it. It's not a bad thing. We only have 3 of us to go through, but this is our time when we do our what's next. It's when we like to share. We make ourselves publicly accountable for our professional goal for the upcoming week. And I am going to start with you, Jamie. What is your what's next?
Yeah, my what's next is to actually put out a newsletter in October. I have joined 2 promos, which has committed me to get a newsletter out on October 11th. September was rough for me personally, and I skipped. But if you have not been receiving the Writing Shorts newsletter, go sign up, www.writingshorts.net. I have a free short story in every edition of the Writing Shorts newsletter. That's where I'm going to have updates about my upcoming novel when I'm ready to publish it. And it's also an opportunity for you to get a free short story. A Night's Gift is free to anybody who signs up for the Writing Shorts newsletter, www.writingshorts.net. Who's next?
I'm going to go next. And so I'm getting a little nervous about Nano. I'm going to be honest. For a lot of you guys know, I'll try to make this short. So I've been on a little bit of a hiatus because I just wasn't emotionally and like creatively there for writing. And so I took a little break. During that break, I started homeschooling. Well, I have been homeschooling my kids, but we started a new year. So I knew that was coming. And I thought once I get the system down, then I'll be able to get back to writing. But during that time, let's see, we lost power, our basement flooded. And then once I thought I had that all cleaned up, then our septic started backing up. And then we thought we got that taken care of, but it's not taken care of. And then we found mold in the basement and now we have to rip out drywall, blah, 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 blah. Here's what I'm nervous about. I don't have a designated writing spot right now. And that makes a difference for me. So I'm nervous that I'm not going to be at all successful with Nano. So this week, my goal is to get, because also I had already done the isolation booths. If you're new here, I take those science fair cardboard things and I put my outline on it, and they call it an isolation booth because when we go to writing retreats, I put it up where I can't see them so that I'm not distracted, because they're very distracting. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, it helps me. Well, they all got destroyed. Like there was no saving them. So I have to do them over. So my goal this week, it's very frustrating because it's time consuming, right?
So sorry, Jen.
But it's okay. I didn't lose my outline. I have my outline in the computer. I know this sounds ridiculous.
Yay!
But I have it more than one place because that's just how my mind works. I don't know why. I don't understand that, but that's how it works. But I don't have my isolation booth. And I think that like I have to have that with everything crazy going on in my life and not having a writing space. I have to have that. So my goal this week is to redo the isolation booth for probably at least the second book. I'm sorry. You can tell I'm not in my office. Everything is like temporary. Is to have my isolation booth done for the book I'm going to write, and hopefully also the isolation booth done for the first book, because I'm going to be going back and forth, because of the storylines and stuff. So be praying for me for lots of different reasons of everything going on. But yeah, so that's my what's next, or is isolation booth. What about you,
Jennifer? Before we move on from you, I just wanted to say that the sad thing is that the NaNoWriMo live meetups have not been able to happen. So hopefully we can get back to where people are getting together, because
it helps.
It does help. Because if you haven't been able to find a spot to write, at least you go to those and you'll be writing then. Yeah. All right. Anyway.
All right, Tina, how about you?
Okay, well, personally, my granddaughter's coming for the weekend, and that's been a while since we've had her for the whole weekend. So I said to my husband, do you want Athena for the weekend? He said, yeah, I miss her.
Aww.
So we're having Athena for the weekend. So I'm looking forward to that. And then Monday, it's Nose to the Grindstone. I got to get book 2 edited so I can publish it.
Whoop, whoop.
All right. Sounds exciting. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone for being here, but that does conclude this episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. So until next week, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye, everyone.
Bye.